that was a mistake. Definitely impacted the election, or I think it certainly impacted the election. How about the COVID origin story? That's a pretty big story too, right?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Maher, who is Uri Berliner?
Mr. Berliner is a former senior editor,
That's all?
a former senior business editor for NPR.
How long do you work at NPR?
I believe he was there just over 25 years.
25 years? Award-winning journalist? Did he win any awards?
Our time did not
Peabody
overlap.
Award? That's pretty important, isn't it?
That is,
So
absolutely.
pretty distinguished journalist, right?
Certainly.
And he wrote a long story about what you do at NPR. Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions, no.
Well, Mr. Berliner, in his story last year, wrote, in the D.C. area, editorial positions at NPR, he said he found 87 registered Democrats, 0 Republicans. Is that accurate?
We do not track the numbers or the voter registration, but I find that
Was award-winning journalist who worked 25 years at NPR, Mr. Berliner, was he lying when he wrote that?
I am not presuming such. I just we don't track that information about our journalists.
87 to 0, and you're not biased?
I think that is concerning if those numbers are accurate.
It's concerning. I mean, it wasn't 44-43. It wasn't 60-27. It wasn't 70-17. It wasn't even 80-7. It was 87 Democrats, 0 Republicans, and you say NPR is not biased. How about the big stories over the last few years? According to Mr. Berliner, again, he wrote on the Trump-Russia story, he wrote, at NPR, we hitched our wagon to Trump's most visible antagonist, Representative Adam Schiff. He said they interviewed him 25 times. Is that accurate?
I was not there at the time, but those numbers sound accurate. Yes.
Those sound accurate. But then he said when the Mueller report came out and they said, Robert Mueller said he found no evidence of collusion, he said Russiagate faded from our programming. Is that accurate?
Again, I was not there at the time. I couldn't say.
You couldn't say?
I was not at NPR at the time.
You didn't prepare for that? You knew we were going to ask you about this guy, didn't you? It's come up like 6,000 times already in the hearing.
I just couldn't say whether it faded from our coverage, sir.
How about this story? October 2020, the New York Post had the Hunter Biden laptop story, and one of those editors, I guess one of those 87 Democrat editors, said this: we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories. We don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' times on stories that are just pure distractions. Was that a pure distraction story?
Our current editorial leadership believes that that was a mistake, as do I.
Yeah, the whole country knows that was a mistake. Definitely impacted the election, or I think it certainly impacted the election. How about the COVID origin story? That's a pretty big story too, right? Mr. Berliner said, we became fervent members of the team Natural Origin, even declaring that the lab leak was debunked by scientists. Turns out, though, the lab leak is what most people think actually caused the COVID virus.
Sorry, sir, is there a question there?
There is. You guys were 0 for 3 on the three of the biggest stories in the last 5 years. You guys were 0 for 3, and yet you maintain that NPR is not biased?
Congressman, I do not believe we are politically biased. No, we are a nonpartisan organization.
Nonpartisan organization. What's happened to your listeners over the last 5 years? Went up, down, or stayed the same?
It has gone up and down and is now going back up.
Well, I thought 5 years ago it was at 60 million. And you said in your opening statement, I think, 43 million.
That's correct.
So 43 million now, and it was at 60 million 5 years ago. I can do some math. That looks like it went down.
And is now going back up.
It's now going back up?
Yes, it is.
How much has it went back up?
It's gone up a couple of millions over the past years.
So you went from 60 million to 41 million. Now you're back up to 43 million.
In a year's time, I'm very proud of that growth, sir.
Okay, you're proud of that growth. Okay. But over 5 years, it's went down 18 million.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Should taxpayers subsidize NPR?
For decades, NPR has promoted itself as a trusted, nonpartisan news organization. But during a fiery congressional hearing, that reputation came under intense scrutiny. Representative Jim Jordan confronted NPR CEO Katherine Maher with questions about political bias, controversial editorial decisions, and the use of taxpayer dollars. As Jordan cited testimony from a longtime NPR insider, the hearing quickly escalated into one of the most intense exchanges of the day. Here's what happened. Jim Jordan opened his questioning by bringing up Uri Berliner, a former senior business editor who spent more than 25 years at NPR and earned one of journalism's highest honors. Jordan first established Berliner's credibility before turning to the claims he made after leaving the organization. According to Berliner, NPR's Washington newsroom included 87 registered Democrats and no registered Republicans among its editorial staff. Jordan asked Maher whether those numbers were accurate. Maher replied that NPR does not monitor employees' political affiliations and therefore couldn't confirm the figures. Jordan responded that if the numbers were true, they raised obvious concerns about political diversity inside the newsroom. He argued that it would be difficult for the public to believe NPR is completely impartial if one political viewpoint overwhelmingly dominates the editorial staff. Jordan then shifted to several of the biggest news stories of the past decade. He first questioned NPR's coverage of the Trump-Russia investigation. Quoting Berliner, Jordan noted that Congressman Adam Schiff was featured repeatedly during NPR's reporting on allegations of collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. But after special counsel Robert Mueller concluded he found no criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia, Jordan argued that the story largely disappeared from NPR's coverage. Maher responded that she was not with NPR during that period and couldn't speak to those editorial decisions. Jordan pushed back. He reminded Maher that Berliner's criticisms had already been discussed extensively before the hearing. "You knew we were going to ask about that," Jordan said, expressing surprise that she wasn't prepared with more detailed answers. The exchange immediately intensified as Jordan continued pressing for direct responses. Jordan next turned to NPR's decision not to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story before the 2020 election. He cited comments from an NPR editor who had dismissed the story as not being worthy of coverage. Maher acknowledged that NPR's current leadership now believes that decision was a mistake. Jordan quickly seized on that admission. "The whole country knows that was a mistake," he responded, arguing that one of the biggest political stories of the election cycle had been ignored by one of America's largest publicly funded news organizations. Jordan then moved to another controversial issue, the origins of COVID-19. He argued that NPR strongly promoted the natural origin theory while giving little attention to the possibility of a laboratory leak. As additional government agencies later concluded that a lab-related origin could.
I believe that taxpayers subsidize local stations, sir. That is the vast majority of where
I thought you
federal
said you got
funding goes.
11 million from Corporation of Public Broadcasting, which is taxpayer funded directly to you, right?
That is to support the public
And then
radio
local
satellite
stations get it
system.
from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, right? They get taxpayer
100
money.
million that goes to the local
100 million goes to
stations,
local stations, and then those local stations buy back programming and content from you. So that money goes to the local stations, comes back to you, gets routed through the local stations, all taxpayer money.
Those fees are actually based on private donations rather than on federal funding.
Well, we all know money's fungible, so some of it gets put in there.
Certainly, we could agree that money is fungible.
What? More money for less listeners. You fired the guy who pointed all this out, who said that you were so biased to the left that you lost listeners, which is exactly happening, and you're here maintaining that, oh, you need to continue to get taxpayer money.
I did not fire Mr. Berliner, sir.
Okay, the guy that left after all that. Understand. Are you fundraising off today's hearing?
Sir, I believe that there was a message that went out earlier today letting people know we were coming in. Yes.
Yeah, and at the bottom of the message it said, donate now, right?
I don't recall the exact
I
language.
can show it to you. Right there it is, donate now. I mean, I'm not against fundraising. We all do it. I mean, I get it. But it's, I assume this fundraising thing is probably going to all the left listeners who are subsidized content by the taxpayers, and that's
The
the
gentleman's
rub.
time is
That's
expired.
the rub. I yield back.
I now recognize Ms. Randall from Washington for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. You know,
Not be ruled out, Jordan suggested NPR had once again been too quick to dismiss an opposing viewpoint. Summing up his argument, Jordan claimed NPR had been wrong on several major stories while continuing to insist it remained politically neutral. Maher rejected that characterization, maintaining that NPR continues to operate as a nonpartisan news organization. Jordan closed by focusing on NPR's finances. He pointed out that NPR's audience had declined significantly over the last 5 years. Maher acknowledged the drop but emphasized that audience numbers have recently begun to recover. Jordan argued that a modest increase didn't change the fact that millions of listeners had stopped tuning in. The conversation then shifted to taxpayer funding. Maher explained that federal funding primarily supports local public radio stations through the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Jordan countered that taxpayer dollars still make their way back to NPR when those stations purchase its programming. He questioned why taxpayers should continue subsidizing an organization many critics believe has a political bias. Jordan ended his questioning by asking whether NPR had used the congressional hearing as part of a fundraising campaign. Maher acknowledged that supporters had been notified about the hearing, though she couldn't recall the exact wording of the message. Jordan displayed what he described as a fundraising appeal encouraging viewers to donate, suggesting NPR was using the controversy to raise additional money while continuing to receive federal support. As his time expired, Jordan argued that NPR's credibility had been damaged by its handling of major stories and its repeated insistence that political bias plays no role in its reporting. The hearing underscored the growing debate over media credibility, public trust, and taxpayer funding. While Jim Jordan argued that NPR's editorial decisions reveal a pattern of political bias, Katherine Maher defended the organization as an independent, nonpartisan newsroom committed to serving the public. The exchange left lawmakers and viewers with an important question: should taxpayer-funded media be held to a different standard of accountability? If you found this breakdown informative, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more coverage of the biggest congressional hearings and political debates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.